He was mocked every day by all the other classmates for being the son of a rich billionaire, but my dude still goes to public school like a normal brokey. And gets picked on because he's so small and is always treated like utter trash, being called a little crybaby nerd. But in reality, bro is actually the strongest Kakirui master with scars all over his body by fighting off these demonic possessed dolls and assassins who hunt him down every day to steal his fortune. The anime begins when we see a goofy snobby little rich boy named Masaru Sega, who happens to be the heir to the Sega family's fortune, a famous family who owns the biggest tech company in Japan. Right now, Masaru is currently enjoying a show at the nearest circus and is excited to see the stunts they perform just like any other ordinary kid. However, this time the show didn't go as planned, as the performers went rogue and the stunt men and women started using their performance puppets against the audience. Masaru takes advantage of being the smallest one there and takes a quick exit out of the circus and runs as fast as he can until he reaches the city. Meanwhile, the scene changes to a beautiful and elegant silver-haired woman who is changing into her circus outfit, getting ready to perform in the next few minutes. She works at another circus which was somewhere near the main city. Meanwhile, the part-time mascot, named Narumikado, was promoting the circus, dressed up in a teddy bear outfit, trying to get all the fans and tourists in to buy tickets for the show. However, Narumi's life was about to take a drastic turn for the worst in just a few short minutes, as the protagonist, Masaru Sega, arrives into the city and bumps into Narumi, begging him to take him into the circus. Narumi was stunned to see such a well-put-together boy, with a fresh trim and some bougie designer clothes that are way out of a normal person's budget, along with some rizzy cologne that makes him wonder if this boy is some kind of rich kid who might have gotten lost in the Matrix and can't find his silver-spooned parents. After begging Narumi for help, Narumi tells the snobby rich kid to f*** off. So Masaru, upon realizing that the dumb teddy bear man wasn't going to help, leaves and wanders off to find someone who will. Narumi felt pretty bad for being a total jerk to the kid just because he's rich and in a different bracket. At that moment, Narumi tries calling Masaru back, but at the same time he has one of his zone-off episodes, where he randomly has these panic attacks and some kind of a seizure. The only way to stop these seizures and get back to normal is by making someone laugh. With the last bit of strength and breath, he fights the panic attack and starts to bust out a few dance moves and just completely making a fool of himself in front of the busy streets in the city, hoping someone would laugh. But after a few minutes, not a single soul was amused by his silly dancing. But right as he was about to choke on his own tongue, Masaru turned around from up the street and started bursting out laughing. A few seconds after, Narumi is saved from dying in the most embarrassing way possible, and thanks Masaru, as the boy takes off once again and continues his journey. However, as Masaru turns around, he is stopped and taken by three tall, slender men in black-looking motherfuckers. However, they aren't even real humans, and they turn out to be just puppets, who are from the puppeteering assassination group. Narumi thought of getting involved in saving Masaru, just like Masaru saved him from his panic attack. But he tells himself to stay out of rich people's business and just continue to do his own thing. However, something tells Narumi that Masaru is in danger, and the good man inside him can't let this go. So Narumi gets up and rushes towards the tall black-suited figures and rescues Masaru from being taken, using his impressive kung fu style of fighting. After some vicious blows, the men seem to be fine, and they all get back up without making a sound or saying a single word to Narumi, and just start staring into the oblivion. After, Narumi, who didn't know that these people were puppets, takes this opportunity to end their whole careers by snapping the dude's neck and also dislocating another one's arm. But even after doing this, the strange figures just put themselves back together. When Narumi finds out that the identity of these sentient beings, he quickly grabs all his shit and escapes with Masaru. They both head to the nearest train station and quickly jump on the train, which was heading towards another part of the city. While they head to their next destination, Narumi gets sweaty and hot, so he takes off the bear mask, revealing his ugly face for the first time. And here, Masaru tells Narumi that he looks much more disgusting and scarier under the mask. But right then, Narumi scolds the boy for putting him in danger like that, and asks why these mysterious entities were trying to take him. But Narumi has another panic attack and forces Masaru to laugh once again to cure this seizure. Luckily, Masaru finds the old man's weird behavior funny, so he chuckles once again, saving Narumi. After getting his head straight, Masaru introduces himself and explains to Narumi that he is the son of the wealthiest CEO, who owns the biggest tech and automobile company in the whole of Japan, known as Sega Group Limited. After, Masaru tells Narumi that ever since his dad died, these puppets have been following him around ever since. Just then, Narumi talks about his inheritance, and suddenly he connects the dots and realizes that these Slender Man dolls must be trying to capture him, as they know his family no longer exists, and they want to steal the inheritance for themselves by taking in the boy. After understanding a bit more, Narumi asks the boy how his dad died, and Masaru tells him that one day, while his dad was driving on the freeway, there was an accident causing his car to crash. However, after inspecting the car, they found a puppet type of thing stuck around the tires of the vehicle. Masaru continues on and tells Narumi that after his dad died, he remembers what his grandfather told him when he was a little boy, and his grandfather said that all men in the Sega family are drawn towards creating their own puppets, known as Karakuri dolls, that have a special and unique inner clockwork that makes them similar to how a human moves and makes them extremely strong and human-like, so they can perform the impossible stunts that audiences have never seen before. He tells the young Masaru that before the Sega company was worth billions of dollars, and known as a IT tech and automobile company, It was first just a business known to creating advanced puppets to sell to the circus, which is why their company is so good at engineering. But if his dad ever passes away, the new heir to all their net worth will be handed down to him. But Masaru still didn't understand what that meant. At the end of his granddad's speech, he told Masaru that if ever the day comes, he needs to promise him that he will take this very important briefcase and run as fast as he could to the nearest circus and meet someone known as Shirogane. On hearing everything Masaru said, Narumi is curious and asks who the hell this Shirogane person was. But Masaru said he didn't know yet, but all he knows is that this person will be at the circus closest to him. Narumi now understands the sudden importance that Masaru had to be led into the circus when he bumped into him. However, Narumi advises he should call the cops instead of going to the stupid circus. Just then, another one of these puppet assassins show up on the train and fight Narumi, trying to finish the mission they had already started. But they stop all of Narumi's attempts to attack and laid his ass down like it was nothing, and Narumi realizes the sheer strength of these brain-dead dolls. However, my guy doesn't give up and stands his ground like an absolute boss, guarding the weak and pathetic child with all his strength and ability. Just then, another puppet steps onto the tracks, and after seeing this, the driver attempts to do an emergency brake stop to avoid hitting the man, not knowing it was all just wood and clockwork. Even so, the train failed to stop in time, making it crash. As the train rolled off the track, Masaru started crying like he was a snotty, wimpy rich kid who had no hardships growing up. So Narumi slaps this kid and tells him to man up now, as he's worth billions of dollars now, and he can't just let some stupid dolls end his family's legacy. As the scene unfolds, Narumi leaves Masaru on the train and grabs hold of the assassin puppet and smashes it into the window, blasting them both outside of the train onto the rubble near another circus. Once the train stops, Masaru steps off and is immediately faced with another puppet, who just spawns in out of nowhere, which was insanely creepy. Initially, he tries running away, but he remembers what Narumi told him about being strong, as he now has to fight to keep his family name alive, as he's the only one in the Sega family who's alive now, and the only one who can protect the billions they have made over the years. He courageously picks up a dumb, worthless rock like a complete dickhead and throws it at the Super Saiyan puppet. As the puppet comes closer, Masaru realizes they crashed outside another circus, and he screams the name Shirogane as loud as he can. Before the puppet reaches the boy, the theater lights of the circus switch on, and a beautiful woman that we saw at the start changing into her super tight outfit is the girl known as Shirogane, the person who is sworn to protect Masaru. When she looks down and sees the boy about to be eliminated by the enemy rogue puppets, she performs a slick and impressive gymnastic girl stunt and guards Masaru, calling the boy her master. She said she will protect Master at all costs, and uses the big chunky briefcase his grandfather gave him, and inside uses a very special puppet built by the Sega family, which is known as Harley Quinn. But don't get this mistaken with Harley Quinn, or he might come and kung fu puppeteer your ass next. Anyways, Shirogane uses this legendary puppet to take on the Slender Man NPC like it was some kind of rare Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh trap card. And apparently this Harley Quinn doll is some next level overpowered puppet, which Shirogane can use to defeat other rogue dolls that may want to harm our boy Masaru. After dealing with the puppet, she checks on Masaru, but he asks who the hell she is and why she can use the doll in his grandfather's briefcase. At this point, Shirogane explains how when he was a baby, his father hired Shirogane's mother as the Sega family's maid, back in their villa in France, and when Shirogane grew up, Masaru's father made Shirogane promise to look after his son if he's ever in trouble. After, Narumi gets back up after his injury from power slamming the puppet like Randy Orton, and when he sees the beautiful Shirogane, he was about to enter Mr. Teddy Bear Riz mode, but he sees her hugging Masaru, with her giant juicy jugs bouncing in his face. After the boy tells Narumi that this was the person he was looking for, and before Narumi even got a chance to riz her up, she automatically thought Narumi was another enemy trying to attack her master Masaru, and uses Harley Quinn to fight Narumi. Narumi tries to calm this down, but she didn't listen to a word this teddy bear circus freak had to say and tries to attack him with Harley Quinn, but after seeing his two heroes fighting, he steps in between them both, causing them to accidentally knock him clean out. They both rush over to see if he's alright, but the boy didn't wake up after eating these crazy blows to the face, but she tells Narumi that from now on, she will be looking after him, and take him somewhere safe where the puppets can't reach him. After, she leaves while carrying the boy on her back, and Narumi takes this opportunity to dip out of there so he doesn't see another one of these weird puppet things trying to take him out for literally no reason. But after seeing what the puppet did to all those innocent people on the train, he turns back, and tells himself that he must finish what he started and eliminate all these demon puppets, and find out who's in control of them and why they are going after Masaru. Meanwhile, a sketchy looking creepo was watching the whole thing go down from the circus bleachers, and after the dude makes a phone call to the boss of the assassination mission, letting them know that the mission failed due to a mysterious woman who was able to control the puppets just like them. The employee asks the boss if he will let him use a different puppet, known as Pulcinella, and with this, he will be able to eliminate Narumi, Shirogane, and Masaru. After, Narumi finds Shirogane and the weak Masaru on the side of the street, and Narumi tells her that he knows a doctor in town who can help with treating his injury. After gaining some trust, she follows Narumi, and they arrive at the doctor, who stitches him up and lets him rest. After the treatment, Shirogane asks Narumi why he was helping them, and he says that he had to thank Masaru for saving his life and tries to tell her about his condition. But just then, they are attacked by another weird puppet standing outside the window, and Shirogane says that she will accept him as a comrade because he saved Masaru Masaru even though she doesn't give two hoots about his condition, or whatever. They both walk out to face the puppet and its master. The guy says that he is there to kill the boy and this ticks Shirogane off. She takes out her puppet, Arlequin, and they both start fighting each other. The enemy's puppet, Pulcinella, looks strong and is said to have the ability to punch through concrete walls. It strikes Arlequin with full force, but Arlequin proves to be too opus for it and it simply breaks its bat and then grabs its head with one hand. Pulcinella is completely shut down by Arlequin's strong grip, and after that, Shirogane uses Arlequin's special ability, Swirling Tiger, and shreds Pulcinella into pieces. It looks like they have won, but the puppet master tells her to look back and she turns around to see Masaru surrounded by men with daggers. They go on to make sashimi out of Masaru, but then Narumi jumps in with his kung fu and beats them all out of the doctor's clinic. After that, the enemies run away and they all go inside to check on Masaru. The doctor also walks in and asks what happened in his clinic, but everybody ignores him like an NPC and keeps looking at the rich boy. Masaru feels bad for being the central cause of all this mess and starts crying, but Narumi sits down and tells him to cheer up and that it's not his fault for wanting a normal life. Just then, his condition kicks in and he tells Masaru to laugh for him, but he doesn't understand and keeps crying. The doctor explains that Narumi has a condition called the Zanafa syndrome, which makes him suffocate and have anxiety attacks if he feels someone is sad around him. He must make them happy and laugh at himself or else he will just die like a sissy. Narumi walks out to find people to make laugh and ends up becoming a terrorist in the local supermarket. After hearing about his condition, Shirogane and Masaru decide to follow behind Narumi, and they help him out by beating him and making the people around them laugh. After that, Narumi invites them to stay at his house until Masaru is safe and they all start living as a family. Back at the house, Masaru tells Narumi how he is the child of a mistress, and after his mother passed away, a lawyer came in and took him to meet his father. He grew up weak and poor and was always bullied, but now he has suddenly inherited a lot of money. He says that he never wished for all that and all he wanted was to make a proper grave for his mother. Hearing the kid's sad story, Narumi starts tearing up and he decides to cheer him up by showing him his old album. He tells him how he used to be weak and scrawny just like him. Kids would bully him all the time and he would be crying at every little thing. But then he resolved to grow strong and worked hard, and now he can knock out Andrew Tate and Logan Paul combined. Hearing this, Masaru becomes happy and tells him to teach him how to grow strong and asks him to never leave him behind like his parents did. Narumi promises that while looking at Shirogane, and we all know the dude has his priorities somewhere else. Later that night, Masaru gets up to go to the toilet and, surprise surprise, gets his ass kidnapped by a puppeteer through the window. Well, he practically destroys the whole wall, so the window might not have been the key thing. Shirogane and Narumi rushes out to save him, but as one does, she forgets to bring Arlequin and gets beaten to the ground like an NPC. Narumi also tries to jump in but gets ambushed by a couple of men and gets pushed to the ground as well. They both see the kidnappers jump inside a van and zoom away into the distance. Narumi says that he will call the cops, but just then, a black car pulls in and the puppet master from before walks out. He introduces himself as Irio and says that he is from the killing team who were hired to get rid of the boy. On the other hand, their rivals are the kidnapping team who were hired by someone from the Sega family who wants to adopt Masaru. Obviously, both parties are after his money, and if they want to get the boy back, they must go to the family house, which is full of the deadliest puppets and most masterful puppeteers of the family, waiting to have Pokemon battles with anyone they walks in front of them, like those annoying kids in Pokemon games. After hearing Irio out, they decide to team up for the time being and crash straight into the Sega family house. Irio's men have set time bombs around the whole property and plan to take everything down to the ground with their rivals. Meanwhile, Narumi charges in and starts knocking NPCs out left and right. Following his lead, Irio's men also rush in and it becomes an all-out war between the two parties. They soon reach the main gate, which is guarded by one of the proficient Sega puppeteers. One of the men tries to open the gate but ends up becoming mincemeat by the contraption. Shirogane says that she doesn't have time for all this and jumps in with her Arlequin and destroys the door and the enemy together. Meanwhile, Masaru wakes up in a fancy bed and is greeted by his kidnapper and uncle, Zenji, who wants to adopt him as his son for his money. Masaru quickly figures out that Zenji is as good of an uncle as was his father and kicks him in his generations and runs out. He hides away in an old room and finds a diary with his father's name. He reads it out and finds out that his father actually brought him in as bait to make the puppeteer families fight each other into oblivion. Just then, his uncle finds him and starts beating him like Yamcha got beaten by Seibaman. On the other hand, Narumi and Shirogane run in alongside Irio and they split up as enemies once again. Narumi and Shirogane eventually run into a trapdoor and fall down into a deep tunnel. Narumi protects his future wife and gets badly injured and gets her life story in return. Back in the mansion, Zenji takes Masaru to the control room to show him that his friends fell to their demise, but to his surprise they are alive. Masaru sees that and sprays the man with some fire extinguisher and jumps off the window, saying that if he survives, he will get to live smiling like Narumi taught him. Thanks to some plot armor, he falls over a puppeteer who was about to kill Irio and saves him. With that, he tries to buy his loyalty, but he says that he has a policy of not betraying his clients, but then Masaru shows him the diary that he found earlier. And Irio gets mad about the fact that the Sega family was using them to kill each other off. He takes Masaru's offer and joins his side. He then goes back to his uncle alongside Irio and his puppet and asks him to stop this madness. The uncle says that he wants him to say yes about getting adopted and shows him the footage of Narumi and Shirogane getting captured by a string-wielding puppeteer. Looking at his friends like this, Masaru agrees, but then Irio tells him that his uncle is betraying him, and Masaru gets mad and breaks his leg before running down to meet up with Narumi and Shirogane. Inside the cage, Narumi tells Shirogane to stop being sad and that she is a human, and she reveals how her real name was Eleanor, but she was raised as a puppet since childhood and was taught to control puppets as an assassin. But one day, she was saved by the words of an old man who gave her hope, and that man was Masaru's grandfather, who requested her to protect Masaru. But then she keeps holding Narumi's arm and tells him that she felt happy and warm with his words. Just then, Masaru jumps inside after crashing Irio's puppet into the building and making him collapse. When the door opens, Zenji stands on the other side alongside his men. The string puppeteer points his blades at Masaru's arms and says that he will force a yes out of him even if he has to take some of his limbs off. Shirogane tries to cover him and tells him to take hers instead, but Narumi can't let this happen to his crush, so he simply breaks the blades and then uses constipation stance, kung fu something something technique, and bends the bars of the cage. They all walk out, and after looking at how bruised Masaru is, he goes on a frenzy and beats up everyone standing there. Unfortunately, Shirogane gets her legs injured by one of the enemies, and they eventually capture Narumi too. But Masaru decides to man up and takes Arlequin's strings from Shirogane's hands and uses the spinning tiger attack to save them all. Just then, the bombs go off and the whole building starts collapsing. Irio gets up and they all try to make an escape, but then Masaru falls down into the burning building. Narumi promises to save him and sends Shirogane away, and then jumps down and shields the boy from all the burning debris collapsing over him. He starts getting a Xanopha attack but tells Masaru to keep laughing and that one day he would grow even stronger than himself. Soon, Masaru falls unconscious from all the heat and smoke while being saved by Narumi. The next morning, after everything has burned up and only black charcoal remains, Masaru wakes up still protected by Narumi's arm. He happily looks around and thinks that they are safe, but then looks up to realize that the arm was all that was left of Narumi, and he probably died in the fire. Time for time skip. 2 months later, Masaru and Shirogane have finally recovered from all their wounds, and Masaru has taken the role of the head of the Sega family. They have finally started going back to school, and Shirogane has quit the circus to become a maid at Masaru's house as well. They miss Narumi a lot, and Shirogane feels like she can't laugh ever again due to not being able to help Narumi in his last moments. Masaru also goes back to his school, and the bullies try to mess with him again, but instead of crying or fighting back, he just laughs it all off like Shanks. At one point, they push him back and his banana comes off, revealing disgusting scars underneath. Masaru takes his shirt off and reveals serious scars and stitches all over his body, and says that he doesn't care for bullying anymore as he has faced people who don't think twice before taking lives, and that he wants to live his life smiling like the man who saved him. After school, he takes Shirogane to a rundown circus in the city and tells her to join them in hopes of her finding happiness once again. Meanwhile, in the US, we see a silver-haired Frenchman named Guy taking care of Narumi in a hospital. Guy works with a lady named Lucille, who is the same person from Shirogane's childhood memories. It turns out that Guy was in Japan on a scouting mission and stumbled upon Narumi in the burned-up building. He took him back to the US and had him treated in this medical facility that takes care of over 2,000 children suffering from Xanopha syndrome. He also fixes Narumi's severed arm with an artificial one similar to that of a puppet and makes him recover really fast using a special medicine. Narumi has lost his memories and can't remember who he is and why he is there, but Guy helps him by giving him his driver's license and telling him where he found him. After that, Narumi spends days playing with the children at the facility and helping them with their condition. But one night, Narumi finds out that the doctors in the facility are all drug addicts, and he even catches Guy interrogating a child like some criminal. He barges in and asks him what this was all about, and Guy reveals that there is no cure for Xanopha syndrome except for a substance called aquavitae that was produced by an alchemist a long time ago, and no one knows how to produce it anymore. He shows him around the facility and explains how there are 3 stages of Xanopha syndrome. The first stage makes the user feel suffocation and anxiety attack. The second stage brings about some disorders like AIDS, and most people die at this stage. The third stage, however, makes you immortal, but you become paralyzed for the end of time. Furthermore, the Xanopha disease is spread by a group of automations called the Night Circus. These automations are the enemies of mankind and must be destroyed, or else the whole world will suffer from Xanopha syndrome. After learning about all of this, Narumi becomes mad at these toys killing innocent children and resolves to protect them at any cost. Guy tells Narumi that he cured him with the remaining aquavitae that was left, and he now has the ability of greater regeneration and extended life. Furthermore, he won't contract any diseases either. With this newfound life, he should grow stronger and help them defeat the automations by becoming a puppet-wielding fighter called Shirogane. Hearing this name, Narumi gets some flashbacks of his past crush. But just then, Lucille walks in and tells them that the automations have come for their life and blood. Narumi walks out and tells Guy to leave these NPCs to him. He goes full berserk mode and smashes all of them like a madman, taking out all his rage and frustration for the suffering these dolls have caused innocent children. After that, he accepts Guy's invitation to become a shirogane. Back in Japan, shirogane performs on the streets to earn some extra cash for the circus. They all work hard to raise funds for their first show and want to make this circus thing work. After finishing her performance, a young woman named Vilma walks up to her and challenges her to a game of throwing knives. She wins the game but takes a liking to her and they both end up becoming friends. But it turns out that Vilma is a hired assassin on duty to get rid of Masaru. One night, she attacks him but Shirogane saves the boy and they both start fighting. Vilma throws her knives like bullets and pokes more holes into Shirogane than she can count, but to everyone's surprise, Shirogane just keeps standing back up even after getting a knife stuck in her head. She defeats Vilma and reveals that she had turned on the aspirin cheat for infinite health, and it is actually due to her having aquaviti in her blood as well. After defeating her and healing her wounds, she decides to turn her into Necklace Nick's friend, but Masaru tells her to spare her and tends to her wounds. Later on, Vilma wakes up and finds out that they spared her and, as per Masaru's request, joins their circus as the knife thrower. A few days later, having saved enough money, Masaru and the circus gang finally manage to put up a big show for their circus. Shirogane still misses Narumi and regrets not being able to show him some love, care and respect, but is gradually feeling at home in the circus. On the other hand, Narumi is riding a plane towards China alongside Guy and Lucille to find some automations that they have been hearing about lately. While flying over the coast of Japan, they get hijacked by a bunch of automations who are there to put them all down. They kill the pilots and plan to make the plane go boom, but Narumi and the others fight back to prevent that from happening. While surrounded, the automations take the passengers hostage and propose a challenge to Narumi that they will break Guy's fingers one by one for every hit that he takes while fighting them. They both agree and Narumi manages to break almost all of them with only 7 hits in. Unfortunately for Guy, that means he has only 3 fingers left to fight back, but like a gigachat, he says whatever and takes his puppet Olympia out and equips her with rocket boosters and flies outside the plane to fight the kamikaze automations trying to blow the engine up. Eventually, they manage to land the plane near Japan's shore, where Masaru and his circus is having their show. One of the automations comes out and attacks Masaru, but Shirogane saves him by becoming a meat shield. The automaton ends up accidentally drinking some of her blood and thinks that it messed up, but then Narumi jumps in and destroys it anyway and protects everyone. He pats Masaru and then vanishes into the smoke just as quickly as he appeared, leaving them both wondering how he is alive and where he just went. Narumi goes back to China with Lucille and they leave Guy behind to think about why he let his fingers get messed up like that. Shirogane finds Guy and it turns out he is her teacher who taught her puppeteering. They take him in and tend to his wounds without asking any questions. Later that night, Masaru wakes up from a bad dream and decides to go on a journey to find out why his father left his entire fortune to him and what all this was about. Meanwhile, Narumi goes to his kung fu teacher's village and meets up with his daughter. She tells him that her father became ill with the Xanopha syndrome and he went out to search for a secret spring of life to drink its water and recover. Narumi goes out to find the old man alongside his daughter and Lucille, and they eventually meet up with him sitting on top of a stone beside the spring. Narumi tells him about the puppets and everything that has happened so far, and the old man says that he has a story of his own to share as well. He belonged to the Bai family and long ago his ancestors created the puppets, aquaviti and even the Xanopha syndrome. Due to drinking the last most concentrated drop of aquaviti, Narumi starts getting visions of the creator's life as well and follows through with the story alongside his master. Long ago in ancient China, there were 2 brothers in the Bai family named Yin and Jin. They both left their village and went to Prague to study under an alchemist. They dedicated many years under their teacher and became quite popular with the women in the village as well. One day, they ran into a poor but extremely beautiful girl named Francine. The younger, Jin, fell in love with her at first sight and would drag his brother out at any occasion he could to see her. One night, while walking back home, the elder, Yin, found out that she was actually a French nobility who escaped slave traders alongside some refugees, and they have been taking shelter here ever since. They are all poor, but Francine goes out of her way to do odd jobs and sells her hair to buy food for them all, often not eating herself until everyone else is fed. Learning about all of this, Yin starts developing feelings for her as well and after some time confesses to her at the church. She accepts his proposal and they marry each other, but Jin finds out about all of this and becomes super salty at Yin for stealing his first love despite knowing about it. He kidnaps and marries her and hides away in a village called Quiebron. For the next 9 years, Yin wanders around the lands to search for them both and finally finds his brother in the village. They both come to terms after Yin realizes how he betrayed Jin and how he has gone mad now. He also finds out that Francine was sick and the villagers had locked her up and quarantined her. Yin runs to her and reunites with his lover and promises to create a cure for her. After that, he devotes his days to alchemy once again and finally creates the solid stone responsible for making aquaviti. However, the villagers burn Francine away in fear of a pandemic, and in the end Yin is left with a stone and nothing else. That day, he parts ways with his brother and goes away from the village, but Jin stays behind and eventually creates an automation with Aquavity as its source of life in the image of Francine. It ends up being a one-to-one copy of her but lacks emotions. He creates even more automations to make her laugh, but it doesn't work, and over time his madness takes over and he creates the Xanopha disease to take revenge from the villagers, so they live their lives trying to make her laugh or else they would die. Unfortunately for everyone, she doesn't laugh and Jin becomes so mad that he suffocates the doll as well and leaves the village. But even after the automations leave, the disease remains. On the other hand, Francine's doll manages to survive and creates more automations in hope of fulfilling its creator's desire of making her laugh. She spreads the Xanopha syndrome throughout the world to this day in hopes of finding the last missing piece that will complete her. Meanwhile, sometime after the automations leave the village, an old yin comes by and tosses the solid stone into the well to create Aquavity with the ability to cure everyone. He meets a woman named Lucille and tells her to give this water to those who seek revenge from the automations and want to rid the world of them. After that, he jumps inside the well himself to enhance its preserving properties so the solid stone can remain active for centuries to come. After drinking Aquavity herself, Lucille receives the first puppet, Arlequin, and the will to rid this world of automations. The reason they call these warriors Shirogane is because Yin got that name in Japan due to his white hair and old age, and he kept it for years to come. Back in the present time, after going through this story, Narumi wonders what happened to the younger brother, Jin, and just then one of the 4 pioneering automations, Pantalone, arrives on the scene. He says that no one knows where he went after leaving the village, but now they all serve Lady Francine and lie for the purpose of making her smile. Hearing his simp talk, the old kung fu master taunts him and makes him jump. When Pantalone gets near, he surprises him with a crate of dynamite beneath him and blows everything up to take him down. After this incident, Lucille notices a Shirogane dog picking up on Pantalone's scent, hinting towards the fact that he managed to live, but thanks to that they managed to finally locate the night circus's location. With this, they call out all the Shirogane OS to join them for the final battle in the desert. Shirogane OS are former human Shiroganes who had their bodies mechanically modified so they could fight enemies without needing puppets. They all stand in front of the circus tent and decide to do the dumbest thing they could. After calling hundreds if not thousands of fighters from around the world, they decide to play a fair game of one-on-one battles and the winner takes all. Way to go, Lucille. For their fighters, they choose Lucille, Fatima, Rockenfield, Timbavati, Torin, Narumi. The Kung Fu Master's daughter, Mingxia, urges them to fight as well and walks inside. Their invitation is accepted by one of the 4 ancient automations, Daughter. One of the Shirogane OS called Zed runs in like the Zed mains in my games and destroys a couple of automations, but then he faces a merry-go-round automation and ends up inting like an idiot. After that, another Shirogane does the same thing and Narumi wonders what kind of idiots they were. He then jumps in himself and destroys the automation like a brute and shows everyone just how useless they are. A couple of other automations jump in and fight Fatima and Mingxia, but they all defeat them and win the round. After that, they are sent down to the next stage where they must choose between 2 doors where one hides their leader, Francine, and the other leads to a surprise from Shako. Just then, one of the Shirogane OS with them takes out a medical room and tells Mingxia and Fatima to heal up there while the rest will split up in 2 teams and go for Francine's head. Lucille stays behind with the girls as well in hopes of finding another way to reach Francine. Meanwhile, Irio is enjoying his rich life to the fullest, but one day a Shirogane enters his hotel room and introduces himself as the guy who will make his life interesting again. Irio takes him up on this offer and goes back to his village to pick up his weapon before flying to the Sahara Desert where the night circus is located. On his way, he finds out that the Xanopha syndrome is caused by small insectoid automations, and drinking the blood of people who have drunk Aquavity gives you some immunity to them. Meanwhile, Narumi walks down a long staircase that leads him to a room past which Francine is supposed to be sitting. Once there, Daughter comes up on the screen and tells them that the room has spiked walls and a portion of the platform will fall down every 3 minutes like that one Fall Guys game. He says that they have 18 minutes before the walls crush them and they must fight each other and the 2 survivors will get to move on. Narumi immediately knocks out the emotionless robotic Shirogane, Lena, who is with them, and then tells the other 2 to move on. He tanks the walls and breaks all the spikes, but the cost of increasing his body whole counts by a lot. After that, once Lena comes back to her senses, he jumps up on a wall with her help and breaks through it, saving them both. But on the other side, they meet with 2 Shiroganes and find 2 dead ones on the ground. He asks if they did it, but they point to the hundreds of automations standing in front of them with machine guns and say that they didn't like their joke. The Shirogane walks forward and destroys all the puppets, and then they let the other 2 move on. Meanwhile, the wall breaks down and reveals a massive crusher behind ready to flatten Narumi like paper, but the Shirogane asks Narumi to hold on for 5 minutes and ends up giving his own life up to stop the gears and makes the crusher stop. In his last moments, he tells Narumi about his sad story as to why he became a Shirogane, but let's just skip over that because I said so. After conquering all these challenges, Narumi walks on and eventually reaches the circus's main ground where he meets up with the other Shirogane. There, the 4 ancient automations, Pantalone, daughter, Columbine, and Arlecchino greet them all with Francine's doll sitting above them in her throne. While all this is happening inside, all the Shirogane outside are fighting against a massive army of low-tier automations. While their quality is low, they outnumber them vastly, and sadly the difference proves to be too much for them. Inside, Narumi starts walking upstairs towards the Francine doll with more holes in his body than necessary. The other Shirogane who came alongside him fights off against the 4 ancient automations and keeps them busy while Narumi walks up like a zombie. But then Arlecchino manages to break away from his opponent and decides to go after Narumi. Lita tries to stop him, but he one-shots her with his Opus AP build and then stands in front of Narumi and calls him out for being weak. Narumi tries to punch him but then falls back due to too much blood loss. After his fall, the other Shirogane tries to save him but gets their cheeks clapped by the automations, who then call out all the low-tier automations from inside to finish them off once and for all. Things look really bad for Narumi's side, but just then, Lucille jumps in alongside Fatima, Mingxia, Irio, and the other Shirogane. She jumps out with her puppet that she had Irio bring for her and reveals it to be a puppet of her late daughter, Angelina, who looked really similar to Francine. Thanks to this similarity, she manages to give out orders to the 4 ancient automations and tells them to bow down to her. She then mocks the one called daughter, whom she held a grudge against, and makes it blow itself up by disobeying the command and going against the will of its creator. Daughter stands up and strikes Lucille down, but it costs him his own mechanical life. Fatima and a Dr. Shirogane take Narumi inside the medical chamber and start operating on him, but due to so much blood loss, his immortality from aquavity is running out and his body starts turning into stone. The battle continues outside as the lesser automations are able to move still because they are not as loyal to Francine due to being much lower in the hierarchy. In the end, the doctor has to replace Narumi's stone limbs with parts of the puppets of his fallen friends in the other world. Lucille gives him a final push to go back and save the world. On the outside, Columbine manages to stand up by making herself understand that the order was given by a fake and not the real Francine doll. One of the dark and handsome Shirogane decides to fight her off and uses his snake puppet to inject his own blood into her, making her rot away due to the reaction with aquavity in him. After finishing the surgery on Narumi, the doctor turns into stone and crumbles away as well, saying now it's up to Narumi to wake up himself. Meanwhile, Pantalone manages to break Angelina's doll and breaks himself and Arlecchino away from the order. They walk upstairs and apologize to Francine doll for getting tricked by the fake. Just then, they turn around and see Fatima approaching them with her puppet, so Arlecchino decides to one-shot her as well, but luckily she didn't forget to buy a Mr. Cloak and manages to live with 1 HP. Pantalone decides to kill Steel, but suddenly, Narumi wakes up with newfound conviction and rushes straight towards him using his mechanical limbs. He left-right uppercuts Pantalone into oblivion and lets Fatima rest in peace as she fades away from burn damage. After that, Arlecchino stands in front of him like the final boss, but Narumi simply one-shots him and tells him that he is no longer important to the plot. With that, he walks up to Francine doll and prepares to destroy her. He tells her to stop the Xanopha syndrome, but she says that she is not the real doll and she was created in the 1900 seconds by the real Francine, and only she knows how to stop Xanopha. Hearing this, Narumi loses his mind and destroys her anyways and starts wondering what he should do next. Sometime later, back in Japan, Shirogane talks to Guy about Narumi and how she wished to protect him, but he tells her to not worry about him and how sometimes giving someone freedom to explore on their own is the best form of love. After that, he walks back inside and Shirogane decides to follow after a while. On her way, she gets attacked by a bladed fist, and when the smoke clears up, it turns out to be none other than Narumi himself. He says that she is the real Francine doll and that he found this out from a man called Fu, which is French for fool. He was a former Shirogane and decided to become a successful businessman so he could support Lucille in the war against automations. Shirogane says that it was French for I will fool you instead, and that she was Eleanor, the girl he taught how to smile. Narumi says that he doesn't know anyone like that and proceeds to attack her, but she refuses to let him deny her existence and continues telling him about herself. In the end, she tells him to go right ahead and take her head if he wants to, but she is telling the truth. Narumi goes in for the finishing blow but then gets vision from before his memory loss and decides to run away instead. While all this is happening, young Masaru is traveling to his old house to find out who he really was and why his father left all his fortune to an illegitimate child. When he arrives at the burnt-up manor, he meets the gardener, who asks him his name and says that he had been waiting for him for 30 years. He says that the late owner of the mansion gave him a box to give to a boy named Masaru who will come there one day. Masaru reads the letter and takes the keys out of the box and finds out that his father told him to go inside the room in the basement with this symbol. Masaru wonders how his father could have known about this happening 30 years ago, and then goes to check the room. While inside, a recording starts playing and it reveals that in reality, Masaru's father, Sadayoshi, is actually Orochimaru. He raised him all his life just so he could take over his body, and that he has implanted a biochip in his brain that would transfer all his memories once the real body dies. But it looks like there was some error and the transfer didn't go through completely, and so he prepared this room and recording to stimulate his brain and reawaken the memories. Masaru starts panicking after hearing all this but refuses to sit in the obviously dangerous chair. and finds out that his father left 3 advanced puppets for himself as well. Masaru decides to walk outside to take a breather, but there he meets 2 puppeteer assassins from the same clan as Irio. They say that they were in debt to his grandfather, Shoji, and he had asked them to put down the boy named Masaru if he ever enters this room because he would become Sadayoshi then. They start attacking him, but Masaru barely manages to dodge and runs back inside. He locks the door and starts hearing a voice that tells him how to unlock the suitcases with the puppets, and with their help he defeats both assassins. The voice turns out to be a little bird-like puppet created by his father to assist him after his rebirth, but now he is something like an AI assistant for Masaru. Thanks to his help, Masaru gets access to 3 advanced puppets, one of which can even fly. After this incident, we find out that Shoji is actually alive, but his body is half blown away, and he is living inside some kind of recovery fluid chamber. From the inside, he tells the clan members to bring Masaru to him so he can confirm what Sadayoshi wants to do after reviving, and they follow through with his request and capture Masaru with a master ball and yoinks him straight out of the sky. Back at the clan building, Masaru meets with his grandpa, but to his dread, he refuses to accept him as Masaru and keeps saying that he is Sadayoshi. Then he makes him drink some of his blood and tells him to relive his own memories, and we get to have another story time. Some 200 years ago, after Bai-in left his brother, he went to Japan and became a doctor. There he met a young boy named Shoji and taught him medicine and swordsmanship. Shoji was the one who translated Bai-in's name as Shirogane and is the reason why all puppet fighters are called that. Years passed on and Shoji grew up to be a fine man. One day, he went to treat the lord of a manor, and there he met a lady who knew about Western medicine. He fell for her at first sight and admired her for her knowledge as well. This lady turns out to be Lucel's daughter, Angelina, from France. Her mother had implanted the soft stone inside her, and instead of letting her die as a puppeteer, she sent her away to far lands and gave her a vial of aquavitae and told her to give it to the one who wins her heart and to live a peaceful life. Her mother gives her the puppet she got from Bai-in, Arlequin, and sends her off. Over time, Angelina grows closer to Shoji, and one day while saving him from a fire, she reveals her immortal body and Arlequin in front of him. Being the young boy who helped Bai-in create that puppet, Shoji immediately recognizes it and asks her why she had that, and then follows her through the night to seek answers. At first, Angelina thinks that he would think of her as a monster having survived those flames, but Shoji says that he fell in love with her at first sight and drinks the aquavitae to live with her forever. Just like that, years pass by and Shoji becomes a businessman who creates and sells puppets. To assist in his work, Lucille sends a young man named Dean to help transport puppets for the Shirogane. With time, Shoji adopts Dean as his son and names him Shirogane, and they make a good family. But then, the Fire Nation attacks. One day, Angelina tells Shoji that he is going to become a father. Back in the present time, Guy walks inside the room and Shoji asks if he is there to fulfill his promise. Shoji says that yes he is, and says that he needs to confirm if Sadayoshi has really revived in Masaru's body or not, and the story continues. It turns out, Guy is part of this story, and it begins with his mommy issues when he got Xanopha syndrome at a young age. His parents left him at a hospital with a bag of candy and went to buy milk, and we all know how that ends. Since that day, Guy kept asking for her parents, but none came until one day, Lucille arrived and gave him the choice of becoming a Shirogane. After some time, he was tasked with the duty to capture Angelina and to bring her back so they could implant the soft stone in her newborn baby. He goes to Japan and meets her and tells her why she is there, and they end up having a fight, but Angelina eventually wins the battle due to knowing all the secrets of Guy's puppet because she created it. After his defeat, she tends to his wounds and offers to adopt him as her son, and Guy finds a mom for himself once again. On the other hand, one day while walking through the city from some business, Shoji sees a girl who looks similar to Angelina. He thinks that there is no chance she is there because she is supposed to be in the village, but follows her anyway. The person turns out to be none other than the original Francine doll after she created the other Francine doll, and left to find the missing piece to make herself laugh. She reveals her identity to Shoji and says that she is looking for a person by the name of Angelina, and she wants them to disassemble her. Hearing this, Shoji starts sweating his pants and asks her how she knows that name, and she tells him that during one of her battles, she came across a puppet with the name Angeline written on its parts. She figured that it must be the name of the creator, and so she wants them to disassemble her as she has failed to learn to laugh even after 100 years and wants to just stop existing. Shoji looks at her already dead face and tells her that he is the real creator and he will take her to Angelina, but only if she allows him to make her weaker than a normal human. Francine's doll accepts and they go to the village and make it in time to see Angelina give birth to her daughter, Eleanor. From that experience, Francine grows to love the baby and finds a new meaning for her robotic life, but it all comes crashing down one day when the Fire Nation attacks. One night, a rumor spreads that Shoji is treating the whole village to some McDonald's and the party is going to be outside the village. Everyone walks away except for Shoji and his family. Turns out, it was all a scheme enacted by none other than McDonald's clown. Simply put, we don't know who it was yet. While sitting inside, they hear the gears of automations turning and wonder what they are doing there. Francine's doll says that she will go and order them to walk away from this place, but to her surprise, the low-tier automations simply ignore her order and shoot her down, asking who even was she. After getting disrespected like this, Angelina feels bad for her and gives her a Leonor and tells her to run away as fast as she can. Turns out the automations are there for the soft stone, which is now inside little Eleanor, and now Francine is running into the woods to protect her. Back in the village, Guy, Shoji and Angelina fight the automations until only Guy is left standing, and Shoji decides to hold them all off so Eleanor can be safe. Meanwhile, the automations break Francine doll's legs and she falls into a well. She holds Eleanor above the water and tries to protect her, but due to the soft stone inside her, the water around them starts turning into aqua vitae and Francine's doll starts dissolving in it like metal into acid. During her last moments, she manages to be selfless for once and does her best to make the baby laugh, and doing so gives her so much joy that she finally cracks a smile before dying. She then drills a hole in the wall to drain all the fluid before getting dissolved completely to protect Eleanor from drowning. After things calm down, Guy jumps in and retrieves Eleanor and realizes how Francine managed to do something humane before getting destroyed. After their story ends, Shoji asks Masaru if he knows where the soft stone is now and asks him how he feels after living through his memories. Masaru starts crying and tries to prove that he is still Masaru and not his dad, but Shoji and Guy refuse to believe him. He ends up running out and runs into Shirogane. Guy tries to attack him, but she protects him and asks Guy what this was all about. Just then, Masaru falls from the cliff and starts reliving the memories of people around him. Continuing from when Guy found Shirogane, he brought her back to Shoji and they decided to lie about her existence and came up with the story that Angelina's body disappeared with the soft stone, and Eleanor was an orphan who Guy found. After that, Guy raised her as a Shirogane and made her strong, and one day, when she had grown up a little bit, Shoji decided to visit her and call her near him by requesting Lucille on an official notice. When they meet, he realizes that his daughter is completely broken and thinks of herself as a puppet, and for some reason she knows him and thinks that they have met before. He discusses the matter with Guy and they come up with the conclusion that there is only one person who can use Shoji's name and manipulate others as him, and that is his adopted son, Sadayoshi. He wonders why Sadayoshi would do such a thing and keeps the matter on the back burner for many years. But one day, Sadayoshi walks in and tells him that he got a kid and would fund his mother to raise him. Later on, he shares the same diary with Shoji that Masaru found in the burned house. Shoji becomes scared of what Sadayoshi has become and decides to save his grandchild and goes to meet his daughter once again. And this is the encounter that Shirogane remembers from her childhood with Masaru's grandfather. One day, Sadayoshi calls Shoji from his trusted Kuroga village where the Iryo and the other puppeteers are from. He says that there was an outbreak of Xanopha in the village and if he wants to save them he must come alone without informing anyone else. Shoji rushes to the village and ends up fighting him. He reveals that he wants to experiment with the human downloading theory on his son Masaru. He decides to draw inspiration from his ideals Black Zetsu and Madara Uchiha and plays the role of a real-life puppeteer where he controls the lives of his adoptive parents as well as their only daughter so that she grows up to be devoted to Masaru. After that, he plans to revive himself in Masaru's body, and just like that he will gain a gorgeous beauty as well as Shoji's wealth altogether. However, this plan has a hiccup when Shoji turns out to be alive and he launches an attack on him when he is downloading his memories inside a young Masaru, and stops the process midway. After that, he grabs him and jumps inside a tank of sulfuric acid and burns them both away, but Shoji manages to somehow survive yet again, but this time is only half a man compared to what he used to be. After all these memories finish playing, Masaru comes back to his senses and talks with Shoji, but then one man from the audience stands up and says that a key point is missing from the boy's story, and that is what happened to Bin Jin. After that, he reveals that he is actually Bin Jin who decided to bring Francine back to life by dissolving her hair in aqua vitae and making a lady drink it. But then he realizes that he has grown too old and kidnaps a boy from a nearby village and performs the experiment on himself and revives into the boy's body. After that, he makes his way back to the village to find Francine's to get her hair, as it was the only real body part he used of Francine in making the doll. But on his way, he meets a young Shirogane girl named Angelina and he decides to grow up alongside her and enjoy his time. But he gets his girl yeet away once again when he finds out that Francine married a Japanese guy overseas. That is when he decides to go pay them a visit as deemed to enact his revenge and becomes Shoji and Angelina's adopted son, Sadayoshi. Besides all these, he was also the faceless Shirogane who created Shirogane-O, and is now here to take Masaru back. After that, he single-handedly defeated Guy and all the other puppeteers present in the room and then flies out on an airship after kidnapping Shirogane. He tells Masaru to play a game with him where if he manages to take Shirogane back from him, he can keep her and live his life happily, or else he will take over his body instead and live his life as he wishes. Back in the building, Masaru goes to see his grandpa who breathes his last and turns into stone after giving him some encouraging words. After his grandpa is gone, Masaru teams up with Guy and the other puppeteers present there and they condole him. Just then, some of the normal people there start having strokes and they fall on the ground. Guy says that it's Zanpoa syndrome, and with that the TV in the room starts up and we see Faceless airing on the news introducing himself as Deus. He then sends many massive puppet dolls all around the world which start spreading Zanopha syndrome. He says that the end of humanity is here and soon they won't have to worry about anything because they will all get iced one by one. Masaru takes it personally and rides the jack-o'-lantern puppet and strikes the massive Xanopha puppet in the face. But to his surprise, it just farts on his face, and Faceless says that the puppet is actually made up of the Xanopha bugs and there is no way for them to destroy them. Masaru feels distressed at the situation, but then Guy flies up alongside Tyrande from the circus, who is looking to defeat the animal taming automation who has a tiger chimera who killed her younger sister. Guy lets Tyrande ride alongside Masaru so he can gain a stat boost in his Riz, and then tells him to go after Faceless while he will take care of the things behind. Masaru flies away, and just then a pink-haired automation named Cupidia arrives on the scene and starts shooting arrows at Guy. It challenges Guy in the name of proving who's more beautiful and ends up hitting him with one of its arrows, making him fall on the ground. Guy notes that he has still not recovered from getting his ass whooped by Faceless and wonders if it's the end for him. Cupidia flies down and prepares to deliver the finishing blow, but just then gets a surprise fist through its chest from Narumi, instantly making it join the Dead Donut Gang. Narumi tells Guy about a special device called Harry that the old Shirogane, Fu, told him about. It is being tested in the underground lab of the Xanopha treatment facility where Guy took Narumi when they first met, and it is the first modern step towards curing Xanopha syndrome. They need to secure the device and bring it to the headquarters to combat the massive disease-spreading puppets, or else humanity's toast. With that, they start flying towards the research facility. Meanwhile, Faceless has fixed up the 3 remaining ancient puppets and have turned them into laughing stock for the other automations. Narumi and Guy reach the hospital as well and meet up with Sai Ming there. She tells them that Irio and his white-haired gay friend are already there and they are fighting the automations. Narumi and Guy fly up and start fighting a fleet of some random automations while Sai Ming walks inside the institute alongside one of the children who live there called Tom. Inside, they encounter an automaton named Gambler Jones and they start fighting each other. Jones takes Tom hostage and forces Sai Ming to play some games with him. The games include some basic gambling like betting on coin flips and roulette, and Sai Ming loses all of them, letting Jones dress her up as a clown. But eventually, she manages to win one coin flip and lands a hard punch straight on his face, making him self-destruct as some of her Shirogane-infused blood mixes with him. On the other hand, the 3 ancient automations are assigned to go feed their captive, Eleanor, and when they walk in they notice that she resembles their original creator, Lady Francine, a lot, and they start simping for her. But soon, Faceless orders them to go to the research facility to destroy Harry, and Eleanor tells them to stop killing humans if they want to make others happy. Pantalone is selected for this mission and he is sent to the site alongside some other modern automations. Meanwhile, Iryu and his Shirogane partner manage to rescue a nurse and some of the children inside the facility. The Shirogane splits up with them to fight a strong automation while Iryu decides to make an escape. But on his way out, he encounters Pantalone, who decides to let him go in hopes of making Eleanor happy. Unfortunately for him, Iryu decides to man up at the wrong moment and challenges him to a fight. Their fight continues for a few panels as Iryu tries to do some damage, but all of his attempts result in him getting stabbed in his stomach and getting pinned to his puppet like some lizard. In the end, Iryu bets all his eggs on feeding some of his blood to Pantalone in hopes of making him self-destruct with the little bit of aquavity that he has in his blood thanks to his white-haired simp. He manages to cut through Pantalone's arm and make him paralyzed, but Pantalone still manages to launch his final attack, but decides to miss on purpose thanks to Eleanor's talk no jutsu from earlier. With this, Iryu manages to make an escape with his life. On the other hand, Iryu's white-haired friend, George, is fighting an automation that is designed after his own self. The automation is far superior in build and materials and completely trashes George, but in the end, with the power of plot armor and friendship, he manages to defeat it as well, but this all comes at the cost of his own robotic life. As his life starts fading away, Iryu walks by him and they manage to exchange a few words before saying goodbye forever. Back inside, some puppets manage to get inside the children's room and are about to turn them into angels, but Narumi jumps in like a mask-wearing weirdo and starts kung-fuing the foo out of their cum. After defeating all the minor NPCs there, he asks the nurse about Harry and she tells him that it was in the basement, which they can reach by taking the staircase behind her. Meanwhile, the researchers and doctors underground stand around Harry and explain that it emits a special magnetic wave that can nullify the Xanopha bug automations. But as the charges start running out, the wave's protective radius also starts shrinking, and 2 mid-boss level automations wait patiently for it to run out so they can play Fruit Ninja with the researchers. Narumi and Sai Ming eventually make it to Harry, but they find out that the puppets have already put down all the researchers and they both split up to defeat the automations. Narumi takes down his opponent in a jiffy, but Sai Ming's enemy turns out to have cheats on, which makes it immune to kung fu and kai attacks. It's called the Blom Blom Low and it swings in towards her with his blade and makes her join the one-arm gang in an instant. With Sai Ming down, Narumi becomes really mad and starts fighting the puppet instead, but as if he lacked the brain cells to process what just happened, he uses kung fu and kai attacks to fight it, and Blom starts overpowering him as well. When his only quirk proves to be useless, Narumi takes inspiration from his master, Naruto the Plot Did Him Dirty Hawkett, and uses talk no jutsu on himself to realize that he has robotic limbs from the puppets of his fallen friends and smashes through Blom's core with an energy-charged punch. While all this is going on underground, Guy is left alone to deal with the fleet of automations on the outside. He resolves to keep standing and to defend the place with everything he has got. He continues to fight like a hero, but that can go just so far and he starts losing the battle soon. It looks like we will have to say goodbye to another good-looking guy, but then Pantalone jumps in as the ultimate savior. He resolves to fight on the human side to make Eleanor happy and feels conflicted about his decisions as well. In the meantime, Iryu drills through the building on a train puppet and rescues all the children, Sai Ming and Narumi, and also secures Harry. After that, he charges out and lets Narumi grab Guy before rushing out. Narumi decides to save Pantalone as well and then helps him on the train as they make their way back to the headquarters. At the same time, Masaru is chasing after Faceless and his airship but gets knocked down by the automation known as Harlequin. He crashes near the shore of a monastery in France where Faceless is residing and keeping Eleanor. But before Masaru and Tyrande can walk in, they are ambushed by the Chimera taming automation, and Tamanda says that she will deal with him and let Masaru go in. Inside, Masaru is found by Columbine, who is still thinking about Eleanor's order to not kill humans, and she tests Masaru for his reasons to save her. Masaru uses his wizard magic and talk no jutsu and lets her let him go, but they get ambushed by Android OS, which are the recreations of former Shirogane OS by Faceless. The androids kick Columbine back, calling her trash, but Masaru grabs her and rizzes her up with his words. The androids decide to capture Masaru, but Columbine helps him and they manage to make an escape down to a special room. Once down, Columbine explains that Android and Shirogane-os were created by preserving the original bodies in a sleeping capsule, and then using a brain downloading mechanism to transfer memories into newly robotic bodies. The room they land in is the place where the original bodies are kept, and with that they start messing with the systems to wake them all up. In the meantime, the Android OS come in and they start fighting Masaru and Columbine and manage to capture them eventually. But just then, the capsules open up and all the androids start going crazy looking at their original old bodies and decide to Isekai themselves instead of accepting that they will grow to be that ugly. Once all that is taken care of, Masaru thanks Columbine and rushes out of the room and encounters Faceless. Meanwhile, Tyrande is fighting the tamer automation very bravely, which obviously means she's running for her life like she's supposed to. She eventually runs inside a big hall where she is saved by Arlecchino. She thanks him and smiles for him, which makes his gears turn. He notes that it is a really strange feeling and then lets her continue running like a chicken. Eventually, Tyrande runs inside a big room and manages to fall down a pit full of the strongest and wildest chimeras that the automation has created. It looks like it is the end for her, but then she remembers that she is an important plot character and uses sudden power-up cheat skill to motivate herself and uses Conqueror's Haki on the Chimera to tame them all. After that, she walks out and stampedes her chimeras over the tamer automation and destroys all his weak beasts as well. In the meantime, Faceless is having Arlecchino give Eleanor a tour of his headquarters and the other automations. She seems just as excited about them as a nerd feels when for PE in school, but then Faceless calls her to his room and makes her sit in a chair and binds her. She tells him that he can't scare him, but then he shows him footage of Masaru and Tyrande in trouble and she gives in immediately. Later on, he walks her out alongside his strongest automations to meet Masaru and to make him give up his body. When they both come face to face, Masaru's automation pet, Griffon, finds Harlequin inside the monastery and delivers it to him on the battleground. To fight him back, Faceless tells Harlequin to take Eleanor away and sends out his 3 puppets Diamantina, Captain Graziano, and Brighella to capture him. Masaru fights them back with Harlequin but soon gets overwhelmed as Diamantina decides to body the puppet head-on. But to save his butt, Columbine jumps in and tackles her away. She tells Masaru that she will take care of Diamantina and tells him to focus on the fight ahead. On the other hand, Tyrande runs into a weird-looking space rocket from SpaceX and wonders who designed that. Just then, Elon Musk sends Arlecchino to explain that it is a part of Faceless' plan where he wants to take Eleanor alongside him to a space station that he has hijacked thanks to the Xanapha syndrome. Back at Fu's place, Narumi delivers Harry and asks him how long will it take him to mass-produce the device, and he tells him that it will take him at least 3 years to do it. Narumi says that that's too long and decides to head to the French monastery and defeat Faceless himself. Back on the battlefield, Tyrande charges inside the room alongside her fleet of messed up animals. She takes the other 2 puppets on and lets Masaru follow behind Faceless, who starts running upstairs to the rocket. Eventually, Arlecchino joins them as well in the fight against Faceless and his automations. Masaru runs up and runs into Faceless and he shows him the brain downloading device and tells him that this time it will take him less than 10 minutes to finish the download. With that, the countdown for the rocket's takeoff starts going off and he explains that he will defeat Masaru here and then download himself in his head. After that, he will destroy this old body in front of Eleanor by Masaru's hands and will escape with her to the space station and live with her there with all her love and care without her ever knowing that he is actually not Masaru. With that, he starts fighting him and soon beats him up as he knows all his moves and knows them better. He then knocks him out and puts him inside the brain downloading device and downloads his own mind in Masaru's head. Griffon arrives on the scene and tries to wake Masaru up, but to his horror, the next time his master opens his eyes, he has turned into Faceless. After that, the two Faceless ride up the elevator with only 20 minutes remaining before the rocket launches. They play out their little skit to make Eleanor believe that Masaru is fighting the old Faceless. The old Faceless starts beating Masaru up to make sure that Eleanor doesn't become suspicious of Masaru beating him too easily. He ends up pushing him on the ground and stepping over his head. With only 15 minutes remaining, the old man loosens his hold over Masaru and lets him go for the finishing strike, but to both their surprise, the old body moves away on its own. Faceless wonders if that body still has the will to live, and that's why he doesn't want to die just yet, but then he gives into his madness and tries to make sure that the next attack doesn't miss. He lets himself be completely defenseless in front of the new Masaru. The attack is aimed straight for his head, but just at the last moment, Masaru regains his consciousness and dismantles Faceless's arm. Inside his head, we see that Masaru's consciousness is still alive in there as Faceless walks in and asks him what he is doing there, as it is his brain now. Faceless asks him to leave, but Masaru asks him how much water he thought there was in the well when the alchemist threw in the soft stone inside it to create aquavity. Faceless thinks that Masaru is just trying to stall for time without any reason and entertains his question. He tells him that there should be about 10 to 15 tons of water, if not more. He then asks him how aquavity makes humans immortal, and he explains that it enhances the cells of their bodies and makes them go back to their original state. In this way, it keeps the body in its prime state, enhancing their life force. After that, he asks him where the soft stone was now, and he replies that it's inside Eleanor's body. Masaru says that that stone that created aquavity from 10 to 15 tons of water is now sealed inside a slim body. As a Shirogane, her blood must be the most potent aquavity there is, and he has drunk it before, which means that after having foreign data downloaded in his mind, his body now treats it like a disease and is reverting to its original state, and just like that, he nullifies the whole brain download and regains control over his own body. With that, he rushes inside the rocket and tries to unchain Eleanor, but it proves to be too difficult. Faceless walks in and starts beating him to a pulp. But Masaru doesn't give up and forces Eleanor out of her binding by dislocating all her joints. He then prepares to jump off the rocket as it starts taking off, but Faceless grabs Eleanor's arm and doesn't let them go. They keep struggling for a little while, but eventually manage to jump off, letting Faceless go to space all alone. Back on Earth, as they fall down towards the ground, Columbine uses her powers to save them in exchange for getting blasted herself by Diamantina. Just then, Narumi also arrives on the island and meets up with Arlecchino, who walks out carrying Tyrande. He hands her over to Narumi and tells him to take care of her and says that he is acting only to Lady Eleanor's orders. Meanwhile, Masaru and Eleanor land on the ground and Masaru throws her down the cliff towards Narumi so he can raise her up once again. After that, he runs back to the castle to find Diamantina, who remained faithful to him till the end and ultimately saved him as well. When he arrives on the scene of the battle, he finds only her head and speaks with her until she deactivates completely. But before that happens, he hugs her and cries a lot, which makes her really happy, and she goes back to her mother in the sky just like that. The next day, Eleanor wakes up in a bed in Fu's mansion. Now, there are only a few people left on the surface of the planet who are not affected by Xanopha syndrome. Most of these people are cured patients and survivors from the research facility, and the circus members, including Tyrande and the others. Narumi still doesn't have his full memories and hates Eleanor as the person responsible for all this mess. He takes her to Fu, where she is scanned for all her memory to confirm that she isn't Francine's doll's reincarnation. Palantone and Arlecchino still follow her as their new leader, and this makes everyone there more suspicious of her. People like Ximing and Narumi hate her because Palantone killed her father, and she can't bring herself to forgive her nor lose Narumi to her as a woman. Everyone is really suspicious of her, but once the memory results come back, her name is cleared. Despite that, Narumi and Ximing hate her and don't accept her at all. Later one night, Guy takes Ximing to the underground water facility from where all their water comes and shows Eleanor standing in the middle and hurting herself to mix the water with her aquavity-rich blood. This makes it so everyone there heals faster and remains protected from Xanopha, and this changes her perspective of her. The following night, Guy challenges Narumi to a battle on a bet to make sure that he doesn't harm Eleanor once he's gone, as he has very little time left, showing his stomach turning into stone. At the end, he asks him about his true feelings about her, and even though our caveman doesn't put it in words, Guy understands that he has feelings for her and he is just conflicted. Later on, they all gather in Fu's room, where he reveals that they received a last transmission from Faceless and shows it to everyone. In the transmission, it turns out Faceless has changed his body once again and is now in a younger body. He is in the space station right now and has taken control over all the world. He says that he is feeling salty for not being able to make Eleanor his wife, so he will destroy this world, and now they have only 2 weeks before all the Xanopha patients get Icecade. After hearing this, Fu suggests a plan where they will go to space with Harry and have it loaded on the space station to emit enhanced waves and dispel the Xanopha automations from all over the world. It seems like a far-fetched idea, but that's the best shot they have got at the survival of the human race, and so they decide to go with it. For the mission, Guy decides to stay behind and hold the enemies back while they will evacuate all humans on carrier helicopters while sending Narumi, Eleanor, and the circus members towards Russia with a space shuttle and Harry. The next day, they all start the mission and evacuate from the mansion, leaving Guy behind. Guy fights off the invading automations who are there to clean sweep the world of humanity, but Guy manages to hold them off just long enough. While doing so, we see Masaru enter the mansion as well, and he saves Guy from being defeated early on. Guy tells him to go forward and save humanity, and with tears in his eyes, Masaru says his goodbye to the cool dude and flies off on Jack-o'-lantern. With him gone, Guy fights till half his body is gone and then flips the switch to detonate all the bombs that they had set in the mansion prior to leaving. The whole palace collapses, and that's the last time we will see Guy's beautiful face. Thanks to Guy's sacrifice, over 3,000 automations get destroyed. But still a few of them manage to survive and start chasing after the train and Masaru. They eventually catch up with him inside the tunnel, but he dodges 30 attacks and moves straight forward. While he is busy with them, 2 of the automations make their way forward and they catch up to the train. Inside, the circus master tells Narumi and Eleanor to go to the first car while letting Palantone and Arlecchino stay in the second car. The remaining people will stay in the third to make sure they all can't be attacked at once. Once everyone is split up, Vilma and her group are attacked by the 2 automations who went ahead of Masaru. One of them uses guns and Vilma takes it upon herself to fight her back with a machine gun loaded on top of the train's roof. She fights her back with a heavy barrage of bullets, but the automation manages to blast her gun away. Feeling dizzy from the explosion, Vilma thinks back on her little brother whom she wanted to save from Xanapha and takes out her knives. She prepares to fight them, but the male automation starts beating her like a ragdoll. She wonders if this is the end for her, but just then Masaru arrives and he takes the automation with him in the sky. With that, it becomes a 1 versus 1, and with every last drop of strength in her body, Vilma throws a knife laced with Eleanor's blood from their first meeting and hits the automation dead center in the forehead. With that, the automation explodes in a pile of white goop, but unfortunately not before throwing a knife back, which takes Vilma down as well. Masaru beats up the automation he flew away with but can't make it in time to save Vilma. He watches on as Vilma falls off the train and then goes inside and cries to the circus guys. He tells them about Vilma's sacrifice and says that he must give Arlequin to Eleanor. Hearing him, the guys stop him and say that they don't think they should be giving her something from 90 years ago, and reveal that they looked into her memories as well and they don't want her to suffer anymore. Besides that, they saw that when she met Narumi, her life changed, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly happy, and so they want her to spend as much time as she can with the man she loves the most. Hearing this, Masaru asks if Narumi is really alive and they say that yes he is, and that he is with Eleanor in the first car. Masaru immediately rushes toward the first car but gets stopped by the automations in the second car. They tell him that if he thinks going in is best for Eleanor's happiness, then he can proceed, otherwise he shouldn't. Masaru gives it a thought and remembers how he wanted Narumi to raise her up once again, and so he holds off his desire to meet them and stays behind. He then simply curls up and goes to sleep, as the train still has 60 hours before it reaches the launch pad in Russia, from where they will be able to go to the space station. Meanwhile, Narumi reveals that he got some of his memories back, but it doesn't change anything, as he will soon be going in space to make Faceless revert Xanapha, and he will most likely not be coming back alive from this mission. He says that having his memories back won't make anyone happy, and it won't make a difference at all. The next morning, we see Harlequin and the other strong automation, Brighella, discussing the failure of Captain in taking them out, and say that it just means they will get more time to play with the humans themselves. Just then, Captain and a spider automation with a similar face to the wife of the circus master and the mother of the 2 brothers catch up to the train. They all wake Masaru up and he tells them to deal with the spider lady while he will solo Captain and take off on Jack-o'-lantern. In the second car, Palantone and Arlecchino feel the presence of Harlequin and Brighella, and they go inside the first car and ask for Eleanor's permission for them to fight and save the train from stopping. They both rush out and engage their counters while the circus gang fights the spider lady automation. The circus master remembers that Fu told him about a secret technique to defeat automations. As they were all created to entertain humans, they can't help but stop all their actions and observe other entertainers to learn new tricks. In this way, they can use their talent to chain CC them and deliver a lethal blow. They plan to detach their car from Narumi's and explode it to take the automation down, and decide to strike her with the knife they got from Vilma as well for good measures. To begin their preparations, the circus master starts off with a stone-eating trick and then lets one of his sons follow up with some acrobatics. Meanwhile, the third son detaches the cars and prepares the knife. They make sure that Narumi and Eleanor don't know what is happening, and eventually manage to defeat the automation by blasting the train and stabbing her with a family hug. Meanwhile, Palantone and Arlecchino face the new automations and manage to hurt them a little bit. However, their age-old models are nowhere near as strong as the modern creations, and they get broken easily. But Palantone manages to make Harlequin really mad, as he makes him reveal that he loves Lady Francine thanks to the paintings and art they create of her in their old Midnight Circus base. Palantone starts laughing and tells him that he won't ever be able to hear Lady Francine's voice, as she is no longer there, and this makes Harlequin even more mad, and he destroys Palantone in his rage. After that, he jumps over Eleanor's car and gives his creepy greetings to the lady. Narumi takes up a fighting stance, but Eleanor stands in front of him and says that she will defend him this time. Harlequin jumps in and says that he will take Eleanor for herself, but before that he will put down Narumi so she is only his to claim. After he shoots at him with some sharp ribbon-shaped projectiles, but Eleanor jumps in front of them and tanks the hit. Harlequin pulls her in and throws her behind and says that he will play with her after dealing with Narumi. Eleanor stands up with all her wounds and accidentally opens the door to the second car. There she finds Harlequin that the circus guys left her before disconnecting the train. She equips it and starts fighting Harlequin, but he proves to be too strong for her and strikes her back. Narumi says that he can defend himself alright, but she tells him to remember his mission, which is to go to space and to stop Faceless, and then binds Harlequin in some bandages before pushing him outside and going with him. Narumi runs out to protect her but notices Brighella on top of the space shuttle over their train. He is about to destroy it, but Narumi jumps and challenges him to a duel. He keeps thinking about Eleanor but tries his best to focus on the fight. Brighella proves to be quite experienced in martial arts and he starts beating the living hell out of Narumi. When it looks like Narumi is on his last leg, the automaton takes out its weapon arm and shoots a missile at him to dishonor him as a martial artist. Hearing the word missile, Narumi remembers an important lesson from his martial arts teacher and uses all his strength to launch a missile punch at Brighella. He catches him off guard and then follows up with a deadly combo before throwing him off the train in pieces. Meanwhile, Masaru is fighting Captain in the sky. He tries his best to match his blade, but Captain proves to be too fast and precise for him. Masaru barely dodges lethal blows and then flies up in the sky for his life. After making it chase him for some time, he remembers his grandfather's memories and decides to trust his swordsmanship to finish Captain off. He takes out a katana and jumps down to fight Captain without his puppet. Their swords clash a few times, but then Masaru uses the power of plot armor to gather all his strength and cut through Captain's sword and body all in one swift strike before dismantling him completely with a follow-up. With these two down, the train reaches the launch pad in Russia and they load up the space shuttle there. Ximing, Fu and the other humans are inside the control station and are ready to send Narumi into space, but then they all notice a horde of automations running towards the launch pad. They wonder how they will protect the mission now, but Narumi stands tall and decides to fight them all on his own. He starts fighting them like a grizzly bear but feels overwhelmed. He thinks that that's it for them, but then notices that no one is attacking him from behind. For some reason, his back is protected and he notices that someone, a puppeteer, is there and is fighting alongside him. This guy turns out to be none other than Masaru, and together they both manage to defeat all the automations attacking them. Once the fight is over, Narumi turns around to thank his savior but gets surprised as Masaru clicks a picture of him with a bright flash and tears in his eyes. After that, he lets Griffon speak in his stead so Narumi doesn't realize who he really is. He then tells him that he used this really bright flash to make him blind for some time and that he wants to go to space instead of him. Masaru tells Narumi to go and make the woman he truly loves happy, and that if he doesn't then everyone will only have revenge and regret in their hearts after all this is over. That's why he wants him to go and save Eleanor. Besides that, he is more well equipped to cure Xanapha, so he should take his caveman brain back to his girl. After that, he goes to the space station and boards the shuttle. Before going inside, he meets up with Tyrande, who obviously has feelings for the wizard Masaru the Great, and she cries and tells him to not go as she wants to spend more time with him and to become closer friends. Masaru says that in that case, they will go on a picnic together next week and that he knows of a way to make it back. With that, he wishes her goodbye and goes inside the space shuttle. Meanwhile, Eleanor has been dressed up in a wedding gown by Harlequin when she was unconscious, and he has taken Harlequin away from her as well. He chases after her as she runs ahead and feels unreasonably sluggish and weak. Her hair also starts turning black as she notes that it is due to the lack of blood and aquavitae in her. Eventually, Harlequin hears the voice of a baby crying and he goes inside a church to see a priest holding a little baby in his arms. Harlequin decides to eat the baby, but Eleanor jumps in and protects it, but it makes her get hit by one of his attacks as well. The automation starts walking forward to claim his victory, but just then Narumi breaks inside like a demon and starts walking towards the automation. Harlequin tries to summon some lightning to turn Narumi into barbecue meat, but thanks to his blindness, Narumi's other senses have sharpened and he manages to precisely break Harlequin's horn and stops the attack, and then follows up with a dismantling combo and takes him down. After that, Narumi walks out with Eleanor and confesses to her and apologizes to her for being rude to her earlier. He slowly starts gaining his vision back, and as he cries more and loves her more, Eleanor starts crying as well, and after many generations of separation, Bai Yin and Francine manage to be together once again in this reincarnation. In the distance, we see Arlecchino holding Palantone's head and looking at Eleanor's happy smiling face with his half-destroyed body leaning against a wall. They both feel immense joy as they realize their purpose of existence for seeing Lady Francine's face smiling. With this happy story unfolding on Earth, Masaru manages to land on the space station and walks in to find himself in an Earth-like atmosphere with old buildings and a lot of Francine dolls in there. Faceless, or Baijin as he is originally called, walks out and reveals that he revived himself in a clone body that he created from the cells of his original, and now that he has failed to make Eleanor his once more, he just wants to destroy this world and be done with it as he looks upon the misery of others from his heaven up here. Hearing his words, Masaru gets on the ground and begs him to tell him how to stop and cure Xanopha syndrome. Baijin feels disappointed in him for begging in front of his enemy and says that he won't tell him anything. Hearing this, Masaru takes out Jack-o'-lantern and says that he will beat the cure out of him in that case. Baijin then takes out his own puppet, which turns out to be a white harlequin, and says that it's much stronger than his brother's model. They both start fighting each other, and as expected, Baijin easily defeats Masaru. During their battle, he asks him why he let Eleanor get taken away by Narumi, and that having his own memories in his head, he must have realized that his love for her was more than just like that of a mother or an elder sister, as she ages 5 times slower than a normal human being. He could have easily grown up and become her boyfriend and married her. Hearing all this, Masaru starts questioning his actions but forcefully fights back and says that Narumi loved her first, and this makes Baijin really mad as he loved her first as well all those years ago. He then grabs him by the collar and decides to put an end to him, but a Shirogane dog jumps in front of him and takes the hit herself. This surprises everyone, and just then, they hear a familiar voice from the group of Francine dolls standing in the corner. It turns out that Diamantina was hiding there all along, and she jumps out and walks up to Baijin. She says that in her fight against Columbine, she told her that her creator only loved her as a tool, and this made her really mad, so she is now here to ask him herself if he loves her or not. Baijin looks at her with blank eyes and says that yes he does. Griffon tells Masaru that it is their cue to run away, but Masaru says that he still needs him to tell him about the cure. Diamantina releases a bunch of explosive bears and says that no one will move until she says so, and asks Baijin to tell her that he loves her more than the real Francine, but Baijin tells her that he is free to love whomever he wants and dismantles her on the spot. With that, she feels betrayed and stabs him in the guts and makes her bear explode, causing the whole space station to lose altitude and start falling towards Earth. Its course turns out to be near Eleanor and Narumi's location, and Baijin says that it's perfect as he will take her down with him. Masaru starts begging him once again and asks him how to change the course of the fall station, but Baijin becomes bored and tells Chak PT to answer his questions. Chak PT says that they can't do it because the thrusters were damaged. Masaru says that he will go out and fix it himself, but Baijin says that it's not possible as it will take more than 3 hours to just wear the suits and they have less than 45 minutes before crashing. Masaru refuses to give up just yet, and looking at that, Baijin remembers his childhood with his elder brother and decides to help him. They use Jack-o'-lantern and fix the thruster and change the course to the sea, and he tells Masaru about the way to cure Xanopha. It turns out, they just had to broadcast Eleanor singing to the world and it would make the Xanopha automation start curing people instead. Masaru relays this information back to Earth and they cure everyone, and then asks Baijin to come with him in the escape pod. But Baijin says that it's best for him and all the automations to go away from Earth once and for all and let Masaru go away alone. Just like that, Masaru and everyone else manages to save Earth and cure everyone from Xanopha, and 6 years later, we see Narumi and Eleanor married to each other and roaming the world as a traveling circus. Meanwhile, Masaru wears a bear suit to advertise for the circus just like his ideal, Narumi once did. And that's how Karakuri Circus comes to an end. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you can be notified about